This isn't fun, but it solves 90% of your problems after 50. Do it 3 times a week. Before we get started, please leave a comment with your name and the city you're watching from. We would love to know. Exercise number 1, hollow body hold. If you have ever trained before, you have probably felt your abs shaking at some point, and that is exactly the feeling we are looking for here, without overdoing it. The hollow body hold is an isometric deep core activation exercise, widely used by gymnasts to develop body control and trunk stability before any dynamic movement. After 50, maintaining a strong core stops being an aesthetic concern and becomes a matter of protection. Studies published in exercise physiology journals show that practitioners with a stronger core have a lower incidence of chronic lower back pain and a better ability to maintain an upright posture throughout the day. This exercise intensely works the rectus abdominis and the transverse abdominis, while also requiring isometric engagement from the hip flexors and the lumbar spine stabilizers. It differs from a traditional crunch because there is no repeated movement, but rather a sustained contraction, which teaches the body to protect the spine in everyday situations, such as carrying grocery bags or picking up a grandchild. To perform it correctly, lie on your back on the floor with your arms extended overhead and your legs straight. Press your lower back into the floor, contract your abs, and slightly raise your shoulders and legs off the ground, forming a gentle banana curve with your body. Hold that position while breathing in a controlled manner, without holding your breath. An extra tip to improve your form is to keep your chin slightly away from your chest, looking upward, to avoid unnecessary tension in the neck. If you feel your lower back arching away from the floor, it is a sign that the range is too great for your current level. A common mistake is trying to lift your legs and shoulders too high, which causes the lower back to lose contact with the floor and puts stress on the spine instead of the abs. Remember that less range with the lower back pressed to the floor is worth far more than an exaggerated and incorrect position. Start by holding the position for 20 seconds, resting 30 seconds between attempts, and perform 3 to 4 sets. As you feel more control, increase the hold time from 20 to 35 seconds before thinking about any other progression. Contraindications: people with an active lumbar disc herniation, acute lower back pain, or significant abdominal diastasis should avoid this full version of the exercise and seek professional guidance for adaptations, with the knees bent and feet resting on the floor. Exercise number 2, dead bug. If the hollow body hold already tested your patience, the dead bug will test your coordination, and it is perfectly fine if at first your arms and legs insist on getting in each other's way. This is one of the most recommended exercises by physical therapists for training core control without overloading the spine, making it excellent for rehabilitation and back pain prevention. The great advantage of this movement is that it teaches the body to keep the spine stable while the arms and legs move independently, a skill called anti-extension stabilization, which is essential for any daily activity that involves reaching for objects or walking on uneven surfaces. To perform it correctly, lie on your back with your arms extended toward the ceiling and your knees bent at 90 degrees, forming a right angle between your thighs and your trunk. Press your lower back into the floor and, in a controlled manner, extend your right arm back behind your head. At the same time, you extend your left leg toward the floor without letting your lower back lift off the ground. Return to the starting position and repeat on the opposite side. This exercise works the entire core, with emphasis on the transverse abdominis and the obliques, which act as a natural safety belt for the spine. When you include the dead bug in your routine, you are literally training your body to protect the lower back during everyday movements. An extra tip is to imagine that you are pressing your lower back into the floor throughout the entire movement, as if you were trying to crush a sheet of paper placed underneath you. That mental image helps maintain correct abdominal activation. A common mistake is speeding through the movement, losing control and allowing the lower back to arch. Take your time, prioritizing quality over speed. A fast and incorrect movement does not deliver the same benefit as a slow and correct one. Perform 10 to 12 repetitions on each side in 3 sets with a rest of 30 to 45 seconds between them. As a progression, you can increase the repetitions from 10 to 15 before thinking about any other variation. An important recommendation is to always perform the dead bug before more intense abdominal exercises, as it works as an excellent way to activate the core and prepare the spine for the rest of the workout. Contraindications: people with acute lower back pain should reduce the range of motion of the legs, keeping the knees closer to the chest, and if they feel pain during execution, the exercise should be stopped and reassessed with a healthcare professional. Exercise number 3, farmer's carry. Grab 2 weights, hold on tight, and walk. It sounds simple, and it really is, but few exercises deliver as many benefits all at once as the farmer's carry. A movement that replicates exactly what you do when carrying grocery bags or a heavy suitcase at the airport. Regular practitioners of this exercise report a noticeable improvement in grip strength, which is, according to several population studies, one of the most reliable indicators of longevity and overall health after 50. The stronger the grip, the lower the tendency for fall-related fractures and injuries as we age. This movement intensely works the forearms and hand muscles, while also strongly recruiting the trapezius, the deltoids, and all the core stabilizing muscles, which need to stay firm to prevent the trunk from tilting to the sides during the walk. To perform it correctly, hold a weight in each hand, keeping your shoulders back and down, your chest open, and your abs engaged. Walk with controlled steps, looking straight ahead, without letting your shoulders rise toward your ears. The idea is to walk as if you were balancing a full tray on your head, with an upright posture at all times. An extra tip is to squeeze the weight harder than necessary to hold it. This increases muscle recruitment in the forearms and further improves grip strength gains. A common mistake is allowing the trunk to tilt toward the side of the heavier weight or letting the shoulders fall forward during the walk, which unnecessarily overloads the cervical and thoracic spine. Start by walking for about 65 feet, resting 1 minute, and repeat for 3 to 4 rounds. As a simple progression, increase the distance covered each week without rushing, always prioritizing correct posture before increasing the load. Contraindications: people with serious wrist, elbow, or shoulder problems, as well as those with uncontrolled blood pressure, should seek professional guidance before using heavier loads in this exercise, as the isometric effort of holding the weight can momentarily raise blood pressure. Exercise number 4, isometric glute bridge. Here is a fact that 99% of people do not know. The gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, and yet it is one of the most neglected in training, especially by those who spend the day sitting. The isometric glute bridge is one of the safest and most efficient ways to reactivate this muscle group. The glutes serve a function that goes far beyond aesthetics. They are responsible for stabilizing the pelvis and helping protect the lower back during virtually every movement of the body, from walking to climbing stairs. When they are weak, other structures, such as the lower back, end up compensating and becoming overloaded. To perform it correctly, lie on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor, approximately hip-width apart. Press your heels into the floor and raise your hips, squeezing the glutes firmly at the top of the movement, forming a straight line between your knees, hips, and shoulders. Hold that position while breathing normally. An extra tip to improve your form is to imagine that you are trying to slightly push your knees apart against an imaginary resistance as you rise. This helps recruit even more of the gluteus medius, which is responsible for lateral hip stability. A common mistake is using primarily the lower back to push the hips up instead of the glutes. If you feel your lower back working more than your glutes, try focusing on pressing your heels into the floor with more force before raising the hips. Hold the elevated position for 20 to 30 seconds, performing 3 to 4 sets with 30 seconds of rest between them. As a progression, increase the contraction time from 20 to 40 seconds before considering any other variation. Contraindications: people with acute pain in the lower back or hip should reduce the range of motion, and if they feel discomfort behind the knee, it is advisable to reposition the feet slightly closer to the body. Exercise number 5, thoracic spine foam rolling. After decades of sitting in front of a computer, it is very likely that your thoracic spine, that region in the middle of your back, is more rounded forward than it should be. Foam rolling in this area is one of the simplest tools to begin reversing that pattern. This is not exactly a strengthening exercise, but rather a mobility technique that helps release the fascia and the muscles surrounding the thoracic spine, improving range of motion, and preparing the body for extension exercises, such as the Superman, which comes right after this one on our list. To perform it correctly, lie on your back, with a foam roller positioned horizontally just below your shoulder blades, with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. Cross your arms in front of your chest, or place your hands behind your head to support your neck. Slowly roll your body forward and backward, allowing the roller to travel along the full length of the thoracic spine without drifting into the lower back. An extra tip is to pause for a few seconds at the spots where you feel the most tension, breathing deeply, allowing the muscles to gradually relax at that specific point before continuing the movement. A common mistake is letting the roller drift into the lower back during the movement, which can cause discomfort and does not provide the same mobility benefit, since the lower back has a different structure and should not be mobilized in the same way. A practical recommendation is to perform this release first thing in the morning, when the spine tends to be stiffer after a night of sleep. or before exercises that involve spinal extension, such as the Superman. If you do not have a foam roller available, a tightly rolled and firm towel can serve as an alternative, maintaining the same movement pattern. Perform this movement for 60 to 90 seconds, 1 to 2 times per day, especially after long periods of sitting. As a progression, you can increase the total rolling time from 60 to 120 seconds as you feel more comfortable with the technique. Contraindications: people with diagnosed osteoporosis, recent spinal fractures, or disc herniations in the thoracic region should avoid this technique without first consulting a healthcare professional, as the pressure of the roller on the spine may not be appropriate in those cases. Exercise number 6, Superman. If the name does not make it clear enough, this is the exercise that will make you feel, for a few seconds, as if you were flying, lying face down on the floor. Despite the fun name, the Superman is a serious exercise for strengthening the posterior chain, especially the lower back. What many people do not know is that most lower back pain does not come from excessive training, but rather from weakness in the muscles that should be supporting the spine. The spinal erectors, the main muscles worked in this exercise, have precisely the function of keeping the spine stable during virtually all everyday movements. While exercises like the hollow body hold and the dead bug train the core to resist unwanted spinal extension, the Superman works the opposite pattern, teaching the body to generate extension in a controlled manner. This balance between the anterior and posterior trunk muscles is what sustains healthy posture throughout the day. To perform it correctly, lie face down on the floor with your arms extended in front of you and your legs extended behind. In a controlled manner, simultaneously lift your arms, chest, and legs off the floor, squeezing the glutes and the lower back muscles at the top of the movement. Hold for a brief moment and return with control to the starting position. An extra tip is to look at the floor throughout the entire movement, keeping your neck in a neutral position rather than looking forward, which prevents unnecessary tension in the cervical region. A common mistake is trying to lift the body as high as possible using momentum rather than controlling the movement with the muscular strength of the lower back and glutes. The movement does not need to be large to be effective. The quality of the contraction matters far more than the height achieved. Perform 10 to 12 repetitions in 3 sets with a pause of 1 to 2 seconds at the top of each repetition. As a progression, increase the repetitions from 10 to 15 before thinking about adding isometric hold time at the top of the movement. Contraindications: people with acute lower back pain, an active disc herniation, or spondylolisthesis should avoid this exercise or perform it only with clearance and supervision from a physical therapist, as spinal extension can aggravate those specific conditions. Exercise number 7, hip flexor stretch. Spending hours sitting comes at a cost, and one of the most common is tightness in the hip flexors, a group of muscles located at the front of the hip that, when tense, can alter your entire posture and even the way you walk. This stretch is especially relevant after 50 because tight hip flexors tend to pull the pelvis forward, increasing the curve of the lower back and contributing to pain in that area, while also reducing stride length when walking, which is also associated with a greater risk of falls. It is common for one side of the body to be tighter than the other, usually related to the leg you most frequently use to bear your body weight throughout the day. For that reason, assess both sides separately and dedicate a little more time to whichever side feels more restricted. To perform it correctly, position yourself in a half-kneeling stance on the floor, with your back knee resting on a folded towel for comfort, and your front foot fully flat on the floor, forming a 90-degree angle at the front knee. Keep your trunk upright and gently push your hips forward, without tilting your trunk, until you feel a stretch at the front of the hip of the back leg. An extra tip is to squeeze the glute of the side being stretched, which helps intensify the hip flexor stretch in a safer and more efficient way without needing to force the movement. A common mistake is excessively arching the lower back during the stretch, which shifts the focus away from the hip and places unnecessary tension on the lower back. Keep your abs lightly engaged to avoid that compensation. Hold the position for 30 seconds on each side, repeating 2 to 3 times. As a progression, increase the stretch time from 30 to 45 seconds as you feel more freedom of movement in the area. Contraindications: people with serious knee problems that prevent kneeling on the floor can substitute the half-kneeling position with a standing variation, resting the back foot on a step or low platform, maintaining the same stretching principle. Exercise number 8, 90-90 hip lift. Closing our list, we have an exercise focused on something that most people only realize they have lost when it is already too late: rotational hip mobility. The 90-90 position is widely used in mobility programs, precisely because it trains internal and external hip rotation at the same time. As the years go by, it is common for hip mobility to decrease, which directly impacts the quality of walking, the ability to bend down to pick something up off the floor, and even overall balance. Working on this rotation in a controlled manner helps keep the hip joints healthy and functional for longer. To perform it correctly, sit on the floor with your front leg bent at 90 degrees in front of you and your back leg also bent at 90 degrees out to the side of your body. Keeping your trunk as upright as possible, slightly lift your hips off the floor, using the rotation of your legs to switch sides so that the leg that was in the back comes to the front and vice versa. An extra tip is to keep your hands lightly resting on the floor beside you during the first attempts. This helps maintain balance while you familiarize yourself with the movement pattern. A common mistake is using momentum and throwing the body from side to side instead of controlling the rotation through the hip muscles themselves. Go slowly, feeling the rotation happen in a controlled manner with each repetition. Perform 8 to 10 repetitions on each side in 2 to 3 sets, always prioritizing control over speed. As a progression, increase the repetitions from 8 to 12 before considering any more advanced variation. A specific recommendation for those who find it more difficult is to reduce the range of rotation at the beginning, switching sides without fully lifting the hips off the floor, building confidence before performing the full movement. Contraindications. People with a hip replacement, advanced osteoarthritis in that joint, or acute pain in the area should avoid this exercise and seek professional guidance for more appropriate mobility alternatives suited to their condition.